Hey, it's Lacey Broussard, and this is the Multi-Orgasmic Mama podcast. From sex and motherhood, birth and relationships, communication and intimacy building, and Taoism and Tantra, we explore topics such as self-care, self-pleasure, body image, jade eggs, the feminine cycles, creativity in business, and modern spirituality. The Multi-Orgasmic Mama is a place to come for true stories and transformational advice on how to be a mama and a multi-orgasmic woman too. Welcome. Today we have on Dr. Sarah Kahn. She is a clinical psychologist and psychotherapist. Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm so excited to have you on today. Today we're going to be talking a lot about being empathic, sensitive women, just like myself. But you know what? I have a feeling that if you're listening to this podcast, then you probably are too. So I think it's going to be a benefit to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do and who you work for.
Well, just one thing to clarify, just so I'm not in trouble with the Board of Psychology. I am not technically a psychologist because I'm not licensed. I am, however, a doctor of clinical psychology. So just throwing that out there. And I chose not to go the traditional route for a reason. But that's another story. So I am an empathic, highly sensitive woman. And my healing journey has taken me all over the place. And I've tried just about everything under the sun at this point too, because traditional healing modalities don't work for me. And so I have undergone tons of my own research and exploration. And so that's part of why I'm here and doing this. And in graduate school, I was actually learning, what was I doing? I was planning on doing my dissertation on spirituality and sexuality, but then it got too big. And then my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, came across this random article about people who are really sensitive and not being able to sleep at night, because I've always had issues sleeping. And then I read that article, and it led me down the rabbit hole to Elaine Aron, who coined the term the highly sensitive person. And she's the one who's kind of at the forefront of teaching about highly sensitive people. And then I went into further investigation and realized I'm not only highly sensitive, I'm also an empath. And so that's like highly sensitive on crack. Like it's like the far reaching people. Because I was like, what is going on here? And while I've always kind of had a sense, it was really nice to have clarity around it. And so that became a specialty area for me because of my own learning. So I work with people that are highly sensitive and empathic and are dealing with a lot of trauma or really ready for a massive life change. I am a catalyst. It's the energy that I bring. And so people who come into work with me or into my space or into my life even, their lives start shifting rapidly. And so I found that people can streamline their healing process with me and make it go a lot faster. However, that also means it's more intense. So there's no like, let's just tiptoe around the issue. I kind of go straight to it. And while I'm extremely sensitive and empathic, I'm also a straight shooter, and I don't believe in wasting time. So, I don't want people to be seeing me for years and years and years, because I don't want to waste their time or mine, frankly. Because when you're ready, you're ready. And so that's kind of who I like to work with, is who are really ready, because it's been an area of comfort for me, I guess. My mom did a lot of work with, and she still does, works with women empowerment groups, and she's a leader in this international organization for it. And I was involved with that for a number of years. And yeah, just working with women seems to be an easy fit for me. And eventually at some point I'd like to work with more men. I have worked with a number of them, but right now this is my time for women, because it's about exploring my own womanhood and owning my femininity more, which has been a challenge for me. So I am healing that and working through that. And the more I find connection with my own divine feminine essence, the more powerful I feel. And then I'm just so invigorated that I have to share it with everybody. And so I just want to help all women get out of the rut that I was in for so long, and this push, have to do it this masculine driven way, but making ourselves sick, especially as empaths, because we can't function like the average person and be okay. Just kind of go without pausing and taking care of ourselves is a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, I think that's why I could never do the 9-to-5 job thing. The few times I've tried, I just realized that there's no way I can maintain this lifestyle. I am way too sensitive to be able to handle that type of life where you're just constantly going and not processing. I need time to process things. So yeah, it's all understand.
Yes. Yeah, I'm exactly the same way, which it was like, yeah, I'm going to go even more non-traditional than I already am. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious now, when we talked earlier, we talked about how you do a lot of work on shadow pieces of yourselves. So let's talk about that. What is that? How do you see that come up in the women that you help, and what's going on with that?
All right. So the shadow is this kind of universal archetype. So if you think of the archetype there's many different archetypes for women, right? There's like the mother, which we kind of have a sense of what the mother is like, and we have a sense of what a princess is like, or a queen, or something else like that. So the shadow is another universal archetype that we all can connect with, and we all have within us. And it basically comes down to all of the things you don't want to look at, you don't want to acknowledge, you don't like about yourself, or the things that you judge other people for. So it's all of that. It's all of the things that we just really don't want to, look at, deal with, experience. And for some people, that looks like their emotions, because they were taught as a child they were not allowed to experience them or feel certain ones. And for women, especially, that's anger, because we are so shamed for being angry. It's our judgments. It's our shame. It's, what's in the shadow is even some things that are amazing about who we are. So for instance, I'll share a little bit about my shadow that I discovered. So I was in the darkness for a long time. So I'll just own that, because I was just struggling to kind of get a sense of who I am and what was going on. And so I was just in depression land for a very long time, which is not unusual for empaths who are not in places in their lives or in relationships that are healthy for them, that we often just take it on ourselves and we feel everything, and we just take ourselves down because we don't want to hurt anyone else around us, right? And so what I discovered that was hidden in my shadow was actually this really excited, adventurous, very energetic essence of me. Because I don't know when it was exactly, but growing up, I was kind of told I was too much, which again is a normal thing for highly sensitive people, right? Like they were told we're too much, too much, too intense, too emotional, too whatever. Yep. And so this vibrancy and excitement for life that I just had inside of me, I shoved behind me into my shadow. And so I lost that or I didn't lose it. I just kind of didn't realize I didn't know where it went. But that excitement and curiosity and joy for life, and also just the adventurousness, because I like to push boundaries and take risks, and I just suppressed that for so long. So when I finally befriended and was able to love my shadow, and instead of holding it behind me, I changed. And so my shadow is right next to me. It is my partner in life. So I can use that energy then. Instead of suppressing all of this stuff, I use it to drive what I'm doing. And now I'm owning who I am in big ways now. And it feels so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
And then when we stop feeling ashamed of our shadow or these desires that we have, if we're going to go veer into the land of sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
that, there's so many desires that we might have or feelings that we have around sexuality that we keep hidden in our shadow. We keep in the darkness because we don't want to acknowledge what we want or what we're curious about. But if we are able to connect with and acknowledge our shadow and all of who we are without any shame, that it's just another part of us, imagine how freeing that is,
Yeah.
just let go. And
yeah. So one place that shows up in
oh, sorry.
That's okay. One place that shows up in sexuality a lot is fantasy, right?
Yes.
And how does that tend to play out with most people? Do you ever go into this with clients?
I have on occasion. Normally we're dealing with just kind of basic life stuff on, getting their life together and functional. So sexuality is kind of like the last thing that we could go there with.
Mm-hmm.
But I have worked with a number of clients around their curiosities and their desires. And because I don't come from a place of judgment, that they're just able to open up and talk about them. I think that's the biggest thing, is that whoever you're talking to, you can kind of get a sense if it's safe or not. Right. And so, no matter who we're with, whether we're even just looking at ourselves or with a partner that we have to make it safe. And so sometimes that means that we have to do the work and develop the emotional intimacy around everything except sexuality. So that way then it creates that safe space for sexuality to come in, because in our culture, it's such an area of repression and of secrecy, and there's so much shame around it that it's really highly charged. And so going into something that is that scary and emotionally intense, you have to develop that safety first.
Yeah.
And for empaths, that's even more so. The average person has a hard time talking about sex. So then you're talking, if you take it further and go to empaths, sex for us is like this magical, wonderful, otherworldly experience, right? And so then, or it can be, and that's often what we crave. Mm-hmm. But then trying to explain that to someone else or find that connection, it's not really possible if you don't have that safety established. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, what do highly sensitive, empathic people struggle with the most in sex love relationships?
Honesty.
All right. I can see that. Yeah. Being someone who is, I think honesty about what you really desire is so difficult.
Mm-hmm. Or what you feel.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, my dissertation was looking at this for highly sensitive women. This is what I studied. And the women that I interviewed, they felt like they couldn't be honest with their partners around when they got turned off all of a sudden. Because it could be a thought, it could be a smell, it could be a sound, something that shifted their focus, and then they're like, I don't know how to get back to, where I was.
Yeah.
And because we pick up so much in the environment or with our partner, if we sense something with our partner and we don't talk about it or ask about it, then we can get totally derailed. So having open, honest, clear communication before, during, and after the process is crucial for, again, the emotional safety. I cannot emphasize this enough. There has to be the safety there. And so that then makes space for honesty, and it makes space for those moments where you're kind of in the middle of things and your partner does something, you're like, eek, that triggered something, or I really don't like what you're doing. And there's got to be a way that you can communicate to relay that to your partner, but without, hitting them with a 2x4, basically, right? You don't want to just be like, oh my gosh, that sucks. Stop. But you be like, hey, maybe we could try something else. Or, hey, look, like that just, maybe it is that you just say, whoa, that just triggered me. Like, and it's nothing you did, but it's where I'm at right now. Can we switch gears for a second, reconnect, and then we can go back.
Right.
Yeah.
And what would happen then if we come to a place of being able to communicate because we do feel safe, and then it's not received well? Now
yes,
that's huge, because that's happened quite often in my experiences, and
yes,
it doesn't go well. It has not gone well certain times. So I'm curious what you have to say about that.
Well, I don't know if I've experienced it going well either all that much. But my story is a little more complicated. We're not going to go there.
Okay. We don't need the whole story. I'm just wondering what.
Yes, but what you can do is first acknowledge yourself. First acknowledge how you feel and how you can support yourself. And love yourself a little bit more, and saying, I'm having one of these really intense, vulnerable, kind of ouch moments.
Right.
You like my technical terms. That it's just this moment of intense hurt and possibly rejection and isolation, and this feeling again like, ooh, no one understands me, no one gets it. Because that's something that I find is a common theme with empaths in general, is like our experience is not understood, or I don't know, it's hard to tap into.
Well, yeah. I think I've lived 90% of my life feeling like nobody understands me. I'm way too much for people. And everything I say, people don't get, or they misconstrue it and make it mean something that I didn't intend for it to mean, or, like all of those things. And I think that's so common for us.
Yes, it is.
For people. So
yes.
How do we maintain, especially long-term relationships, and have the honesty that's needed to maintain the relationship? And then not completely feel rejected or misunderstood 90% of the fucking time.
Yes. Well, okay. So let me go back to this. So first, it comes down to us and working with ourselves. And so it comes down to loving ourselves as much as we can in the moment. And this is where I find spiritual practice really helpful, and getting a sense of, who told me this one? One of my spiritual teachers and yoga teachers, actually, she introduced this breath to me that is now a core component of what I do. It's when you breathe in, you're breathing in the love of your higher self. So the most loving and compassionate and all-knowing aspect of yourself, you breathe that in, and then on the exhale, you imagine that love just kind of giving you a big hug. So it's a way to self-soothe in the moment. So that's the first step, is you handle yourself and you take care of yourself. And then in the next moment, when you are able, you acknowledge that person that you are with has their own experience that they may or may not be even able to articulate to you. And their reality is their stuff, and it has nothing to do with you most of the time. But we, in any relationship, we are mirrors for each other. Not that, it's not the whole you spot it, you got it saying, because that's totally outdated and not true. But our partners offer us the opportunity to see ourselves more clearly and to see what needs healing for us. And so in those moments where we feel really rejected or we feel really misunderstood, how often are you spending time with yourself to understand what's going on first,
right,
instead of expecting it from a partner?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the big thing, right? Is we might be doing a lot of introspection, but how much of it is focused on other people versus our relationship with ourselves?
Yeah. And oftentimes we spend so much time over analyzing or thinking about and coddling their experience that we forget to even process and become clear of our own.
Yes.
Maybe that's where a lot of the feeling like we're totally misunderstood all the time comes from.
Yeah. Because there is that romanticized version of this perfect ideal partner that understands me better than I understand myself, which is bullshit.
Right.
And really it comes down to, that old saying, you got to love yourself before you can really truly love someone else. And as hard as that is to own up to at sometimes, it is the reality.
Well, and I would add to that, to know yourself.
Yes.
You can be known truly by someone else too.
Yes, I totally agree. 100%. Yeah. And if we don't take that time to do that and really sit with our stuff, and maybe it's sitting with our stuff with someone else to help us process it, because I think that's really important. We can't do this healing work alone. That's where it's really helpful to have, either a coach or a therapist that is an empath and that understands more so what your experience is like.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also where it's really important to have other women and friends in your life that are also empaths. So you can go and process with them and not expect your partner to always be there for you.
Right. Oh God, I've had to do so much of that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd do without my sensitive sisters.
Yeah, they're priceless. They have saved me time and time again as well.
Oh my God. Tell me about it, honey. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but what is really interesting here is that yes, you have to own your shit. You have to come to a place of clarity of of what's going on in your own inner world.
Yes.
Which is so hard to do, like I mentioned, because we're so focused on what someone else is feeling that we often don't think about what we're feeling or what's going on inside of us. Okay, there's that whole piece.
Yes.
And then there's this other piece where sometimes the men that we choose to be with, or women, if that's how you roll, they are just not capable and equipped to hold us. And
no, they're not.
Right. And that's where I've worked with women to gain relationship clarity, because sometimes it is never my goal to keep a couple together. But it is my goal to help them get clear on whether or not they should really be with this person or not.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a no. And some people are not equipped to handle and really be there to support highly sensitive, empathic women.
Yes, totally true. Totally true. And that's a bummer. I mean, it is, like, let's be honest, it's a bummer.
Mm.
But if you know, based on what Elaine Aron found in her research, 20%, 15 to 20% of the population across genders and even across species. So we're talking animal population too has highly sensitive traits. So 20%, you know, if we're going to go the max, 20% of the population are highly sensitive. That includes men. So that can, you know, there are potential partners out there who are also highly sensitive. However, you also get into then the challenge if you're both highly sensitive. It can be a hot mess sometimes. Or it can be really amazing because you really understand each other, but you're not going to push each other so much unless one of them is a little bit more outgoing or more sensation seeking, then they will challenge the other one to get outside their comfort zone a little more. But that's where pairing with someone who's not sensitive can actually be an asset because they provide like a barrier between you and the rest of the world. They can tone down the intensity that you're picking up on as you navigate. But it also means this is about the know yourself better. You have to know yourself really well and then be able to very clearly articulate it and communicate it to your partner. Yeah. What your needs are, what your experience is, and say it in a way that's not separating you as much. Like if there's no better or worse, it's just who I am. This is what I need. This is what it looks like. Are you able to do this? They could say yes and not actually be able to, but you can kind of get a sense when you bring up conversations outside of the bedroom, like do this beforehand, especially if you're talking about when you're connecting sexually. Get emotionally connected first. Make sure that they can even connect emotionally with you before you take it to a sexual place. Unless for some reason you can totally shut it off. But in general, most empaths, we cannot, and it causes us a lot of damage if we are not emotionally supported during sex. Because those go hand in hand. Because it's like, it's such a deeper way of relating.
Yeah. Well, what if you're emotionally supported in sex, but it's really hard when it's not intimate? Because I think that happens a lot too.
Yes. Well, this is the broad generalization. So let's just be clear here that I'm not talking about all men, but in general, men have been taught and trained that sexuality is the only safe place where they can be emotionally intimate. And so it's about practicing that outside of the bedroom as much as possible. And so it's about, it's about us holding space for them and saying, and being okay with them being vulnerable and crying too. And whatever we need to do, we also need to allow that for them, because oftentimes we are saying we want someone who's emotionally attuned, but when they get there, we don't actually want to be present with it. So we need to walk the talk and be like, okay, it may be intense for me to hold space for you, but I'm going to, because I said I would.
Yeah.
But you need to take care of yourself at the same time. And so it means, giving yourself that loving breath and remembering that you're protected, and then remembering that whatever they are feeling is their stuff. It's not yours, and it's not yours to carry. It's not yours to take care of. You can be present, but it is not yours.
Yeah.
And I think that is where things get messy, is we feel like we need to fix stuff, but it's not ours to fix.
Oh, that's so common for couples, especially for men. They want to fix everything, which is so cute and sexy, but at the same time, it's like, dude, sometimes I just need to talk not because I need you to fix the problem. Like, I need you to hold space. So.
Yes. And so we have to teach them and talk about that, what we need and why it's important. Yeah. Because if we don't explain the rationale behind it, then they're not going to understand either.
Right.
And then it's empowering for us.
Yeah, I have a bunch of communication tools. There's 9 different communication tools that I'll give to a client or a couple that comes to me in coaching. And I call them holding space training.
Yeah, nice.
Where you know, if a couple, well, all couples struggle with it because none of us were really brought up in homes where, I mean, I guess a few people are, but the majority of people have not been brought up in homes where there have been a couple, or the parental roles, you know, haven't been really great examples of great communication and learning when it's okay to react, and, you know, when, at what point should you reply or make a remark, and what point should you just shut the fuck up? Let them talk.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, and generally speaking, if it starts getting really heated, that is time for a break. Mm-hmm. And giving break and giving space when someone is really angry is actually the most loving thing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
For both of you. So that way it doesn't escalate.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But then there has to be an agreement to come back together and talk about it once it's
you just can't
calmer waters. Yeah.
Because that doesn't work either.
No. Ignoring things and shoving it down and, you know, into a drawer or closet or into the shadow, again, doesn't work because it will come out sideways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even if it ruins the relationship, guess what? You're going to get it again in the next one.
Yep. So you gotta learn it. You gotta learn it one way or another. Totally.
Fucking kidding. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's been super enlightening. Do you have any last words or thoughts about how to help highly sensitive, empathic women navigate sexuality and relationships?
I think what's really important is that we give ourselves permission to experiment and to try things out. And even if it's alone, I think especially alone, get comfortable with it with yourself first, and then be open to exploring with a partner different things. And, you know, maybe it's turning on some music and dancing naked and just feeling your body, or trying out, you know, toys, or, you know, whatever it is. I don't really care, but stretching your own comfort zone for yourself, so that way you can really learn where your own boundaries are and where there are areas that it's probably helpful to explore and push yourself a little bit, because, you know, being vulnerable is a strength. Being outside of our comfort zone is how we grow. It's how we develop and how we transform and how we get more intimate in our relationships. Because if intimacy really is about showing up naked, emotionally, you know, in all ways, and connecting with another person who's also in that same space. And so it's risky no matter what. There's always a chance for rejection or hurt in some way. And so acknowledging that it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's where the good stuff is. You know, it's not going past into pain necessarily, although we can learn from that. And that's, again, a different thing that we can talk about another time. But it's about learning what true intimacy looks like for yourself and finding your own sense of freedom within you. And you know, looking at the shadow where our society and culture have been really shaming us and repressing us, and seeing it for what it is. It's a way to control. Yep. Instead of free us and really live in this place of love that we are so capable of. Yeah. So yeah. So my words of wisdom is explore, try stuff out, really get clear with yourself, get really honest, and be brave to be fully who you are and show up fully how you are, and then grow and expand beyond that, because you are way more than you can even imagine.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
And last question, what one tip or trick can you give on becoming a multi-orgasmic mama?
Oh, I think you gotta let go. And that's the hardest thing. You gotta let go of expectations. You gotta let go of wanting to be multi-orgasmic, and just let it happen if it happens, and don't fight it. I think it's about letting go of the mind, it's letting go of the body, it's letting go of all of these restraints that we've put on ourselves, and being truly in the present and in the experience.
So
and
true.
It takes a lot. Yeah.
So much easier said than done, though.
Totally. It's so easy to talk about and really challenging to do.
Oh,
but
God, yeah.
But at least we can like aspire to that more every day.
Right. I love it. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, Sarah. Bye.
Bye.